Happy September, everyone. Kasabi here from the Show Zone team, and here are the best Set 3 cards in MLB The Show 23. We'll be going over the best meta and true overall squads for Set 3 in case you're still grinding Team Affinity or just want to know what some of the best teams were in previous sets of the show. And starting off, we have the meta overall squad. Looking at the lineup straight away, there are a ton of 2023 All-Star Game cards, and that includes a lot of Team Affinity and other collection rewards, Adley Rutschman, Jose Ramirez, and Ronald Acuna Jr. We also have Austin Riley at third base. A lot of good, strong infield options on the left side of the infield. On the bench is Corbin Carroll as well. You could plug him in at any of the outfield positions if you don't happen to have a card like the All-Star Game Byron Buxton from Ranked. Overall, a really strong team though. Players at their primary positions, aside from Rafael Devers at first base, you could plug him in with Home Run Derby Justin Morneau if you happen to get him from a Diamond Duos pack. He is relatively cheap on the market. You'll also notice that Ellie De La Cruz is at second base so that Jose Ramirez can play shortstop secondary. There are just a lot of good, like I said, left side of the infield, third base, shortstop, so there is a little bit of mixing around. The algorithm believes that Austin Riley, keeping him at third base for his speed and defensive capabilities, isn't as severe as moving across somebody like Ramirez or De La Cruz. Some other bench options include Jackie Robinson and Barry Larkin. And at catcher, Adley Rutschman, switch hitter, too good to ignore, but there are plenty of other good options, including the prime JT Realmuto. You also have All-Star Game Mike Piazza and Will Smith that could be flexed in. Again, the meta scores that you see on the screen here are for their primary positions, so there are some players that are on the bench or might be one of the first players out that seemingly have a better score, but again, it's at their primary position. Some players actually play better at a secondary position that they're more suited for. So looking at the first out options, Randy Arozarena and Vlad Guerrero Jr., great cards. Do they have the flexibility as some of the other cards in this lineup, though? Not really. Vlad can only play first base or DH, and if you're looking for a pure power hitter or just a hitter in general, offensive ability, Justin Morneau does give you a little bit more value than Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Some other players from the first out include Mike Piazza, as mentioned, Miguel Sano, and Javier Baez's All-Star Game card. Sano's a good value for the Diamond Duos pack that you receive him for, but his defensive capabilities aren't strong enough to keep him on the list with other people like Austin Riley and Rafael Devers. Moving on to the starters, we do have Jacob deGrom by a wide margin, about 6 points better than the next few options here, but that's not to say that the other pitchers aren't good. We have John Donaldson, who is in second place, and he's still pretty fearsome after the stamina glitch was fixed. He is one of those imposing pitchers with a 5-pitch mix. Can be tough to read. Milestone Matt Cain in third place, and then a couple other options that you can plug in for the 4 and 5 spot. We have Aaron Nola and Al Leiter. Some other good choices include Destin May and the free Tops Now Framber Valdez card. We've noticed a lot of Tops Now cards both in the bullpen and starters that have made themselves available from set 2 and set 3. So there are some good value picks as long as you're completing some of those moments. I wouldn't be surprised if set 4 also has some other options available. Going to the bullpen, same deal. We do have one that just is head and shoulders above the rest with Billy Wagner from the Extreme program, also a dominant lefty. But looking at the bullpen, a lot of All-Star Game cards as well. Really, the two surprises on here to me are the Kaiju Trevor Rosenthal card, which just snuck in at the end of set 3 as a part of the Diamond Duos pack. He is well worth the value. You can get him pretty cheap in the market, and he's going to be a top 3 bullpen arm from set 3. But the other ones from there after the All-Star Game cards really drops off. It goes into the monthly awards cards, which weren't fairly strong in the bullpen. Javier Assad rounds out the bullpen. There's also Carlos Estevez, and then the Tops Now Garrett Crochet from the Henchman pack in Team Affinity 3. So a good lefty option for Garrett Crochet, but again, the bullpen arms start off kind of strong and then dip as you get further into the bullpen. So some takeaways from the meta overall squad. There are a lot of players that have good secondaries where you can flex them over to other positions. I know some of you might be surprised to put Rafael Devers at first base, but again, there's just so many good third base options in this set where you can afford to take a little bit of a defensive penalty, putting a third baseman at first base, and it's still a little bit of a boost from your prototypical first baseman. There are also a ton of great starters from set 3. I think that there was a good meta from the starting pitcher availability, or just options, the variety of options that you can have. If you were able to get the chase pack, DeGrom is the most solid option, of course, but some of the other options, like John Donaldson being in the XP reward path from Season 3, that's not too shabby. There are some good cheap options that you don't have to play a ton of ranked or competitive for, and still get a good competitive rotation. Moving on to the true overall squad, Adley Rutschman, the mainstay at catcher, some of those other 23 All-Star Game cards in the outfield and infield. Jose Ramirez moving to left field actually as a part of that. So again, some of the flexibility of these third basemen, you can really just put them anywhere and be successful. There are a good amount of surprises, though, based on the fielding ability of some of these cards. So Jock Peterson did not crack the meta overall squad in the outfield or DH. This has him 5 points higher at first base. He's a 103.75 at his normal position of center field, but plays better at first base at a 108. So his defensive capabilities, again, really highlighted at first base, even with that secondary position penalty. But he's going to play very well at first base defensively and give you max power at the same time. A great option for a program boss reward. True overall metrics really rewards speed and fielding, as well as contact. True overall is more for contact-oriented cards as opposed to meta being for power. So that's why you see some other fast, kind of good fielding, speedy guys in there on the infield, like Craig Biggio and Jackie Robinson. Elly De La Cruz, one of the best cards in set 3, as well as the entire game, is back at shortstop, but again, you could put him at second base. Looking at the bench, once again, we have some cards like Byron Buxton, Austin Riley, Rafael Devers. This does reward contact a little bit more in the true overall metrics, so that's why cards like Byron Buxton are on the bench. And Duke Snider makes the cut. He has better contact and a little bit of speed, in addition to his versatility. Some of the first cards out, again, we're eliminating Vlad Guerrero Jr. and Randy Arozarena from the squad. Just some of their versatility can be a bit of a hindrance, even though they're great cards to choose if you have them. Justin Morneau and Curtis Granderson, also some of these first cards out. Some of that versatility you'll really see here in the starting pitchers. So Martin Dihigo just goes straight up to the second best starting pitcher card in the game, and that's definitely because of his two-way abilities. If you want a stacked team where you can kind of plug him in at DH or put him in as a pinch hitter later in the game, you can do that with cards like Dihigo, Donaldson, a few other options as well. Jacob deGrom, though, the best true overall card in set 3. So we looked earlier, Elly De La Cruz had the best meta score of set 3, but the true overall metric, again, is for those cards that would otherwise be labeled as a 99. We try and see how much further over 99 it goes. And Jacob deGrom's card is almost 10 points higher than a traditional 99. The rest of the starting rotation, though, other than Dihigo, is fairly similar to the meta overall squad with Donaldson, Kane, and Leiter. Some other cards that are first out are Roy Halladay, Aaron Nola's All-Star Game card again, and Hilton Smith, which again, Hilton Smith, pretty good pitcher card, but his hitting really influences the metrics of the true overall rankings. Lastly, moving on to the true overall bullpen, Trevor Rosenthal, the best bullpen arm in the game in terms of true overall by a couple of points. Billy Wagner also just over 100. We have a few cards that are dipping below 90s, and some of those are monthly award cards like Brock Stewart. Josh Sabors is one of the first cards out as well, so there are some differences between meta and true overall. Some of those monthly bullpen arms that came out, they do have some different values for each. What true overall really rates, though, are the per 9s, and the one that it really torches some of these cards the worst in is walks per 9. So if you can locate with cards like Josh Hader, by all means toss them in. This is just going to rank them a whole lot lower because of their walks and control, which is why Hader is one of the first cards out in this situation. Some of the other cards that you see here have good hits per 9 and clutch, which plays into the meta, but they're a little bit more balanced all the way around in terms of their other per 9s. Some other takeaways from set 3. I know the developers had a live stream at the beginning of set 3 answering some questions as to why we hadn't seen some of the 99 versions of some of these Negro League cards, and that was to let the storylines just kind of float for a few months, get everybody introduced to these players and learn the history behind them before they're just kind of put into Diamond Dynasty for the larger public to view. And as a result, all of their 99 cards came out at the same time. Their two-way abilities just really shine in terms of the true overall, and in some cases, even the meta overall. There are just some cards that are so good that you can't help but use them in a competitive setting, like John Donaldson. Otherwise, there aren't too many stark differences between the true overall and meta overall squads. Maybe a little bit in the bullpen, just with some guys who have like a sinker cutter combo in the meta versus not in true overall. But the starters are largely the same. The lineups have a few good cards that are just too good to ignore, but otherwise a lot of secondary positions that players can be good at beyond just their primary position. They can flex to other places in the field and still do well. And some of those cards that don't have that flexibility suffered as a result from not making the squad. We went over a few of those options like Arozarena and Guerrero Jr. If you have those cards and mash with them with max power, by all means, plug them into your lineup. And we'll see as set 4 continues. We did have a lot better set 3 cards comparatively to set 1 and 2 in terms of what is available and how good they are. There were a lot more set 3 options that were viable in Diamond Duos packs, monthly awards, tops now, and etc. As we get closer to the end of the baseball season, I'm hoping we have some more 99s sprinkled in, some viable 99s that are obtainable through different methods, not just ranked or chase rewards or the like, but mixed in with more offline modes, some cheaper options in the marketplace as well. Were there any cards that surprised you in these rankings, or are there any that we missed altogether? Let us know in the comment section, but hope this helps for those of you still grinding Team Affinity 3 or wanting to go back and do some more previous season related content. We'll have more set 4 content as it takes us into the postseason for Major League Baseball. But in the meantime, be sure to follow our social channels at MLB The Show Zone on Twitter, or I guess it's called X now. Also be sure to visit our website at showzone.gg where you can build some teams just like these ones using some of our tools and metrics on the site. Signing off for now, this is Kasabi from Showzone, and we'll see you next time.